So the world clearly exists, and one of our main proofs for that is this sefer right here, and a little history about the sefer. It was authored by Hashem himself, as dictated to his faithful servant Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's a very reliable source, and just to quote some stuff from the sefer. So the first one is obviously Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'haaretz. I might say that's pretty shmacharaya. Doesn't mean the world is actually Metzias. So to that, to point out Haaretz 12, 13, 15, and 17, Haaretz 12 is the beer of the Ramban. That basically the Ramban says that the word es means the etzem adavar, kamay etzem adavar. And he says that therefore, hine hakol nivra b'nasa, everything was actually created by Seishon Bereshis. And Marmakim 13, the Baal Term says that Bereshis bara Elokim is Sefer Teves emes. So the world was actually emes Metzias, the emes creation. Marmakim 15 is a mimer from the Marash, and basically he says you have to say that the world is a Metzias, because otherwise, what do you think? Like, how do you explain Sheish Bereshis? What was Hashem doing if he wasn't? He invested so much time and effort. What was he doing if he wasn't actually creating the world? And Maramakim 17 is, and not a Maramakim, but also a good svara is that basically it says in the Torah. So obviously the Torah is Tachlis Emes. So that's obviously a proof that the world does exist. All right. So another mucker is when it speaks about Sheish Bereshis, it says Veichul Hashmayim Veichal Elokim Meshvi Malach Te'Sharasa Veivarach Elokim Mesim Meshvi V'Kadashosai, and I think Veichul Hashmayim V'Aretz V'Chol Tzavam. So this whole Indian is what we say by Kiddush, and the point why we say by Kiddush is basically to have eidos that Hashem actually created the world. So two problems if you say that the world is not a Metzias. First of all, you could take your $500 becher that you got from Yishvar and throw it in the garbage, because you're actually doing nothing by Kiddush. First of all, you're lying to yourself, you're lying to your whole family, and Hashem told you to lie if you say the world is not a Metzias. Another part, it says in the Torah, V'yita Hashem Elokim Gan Eden Mikadam, that Hashem created Gan Eden, so if the world is not a Metzias, also Gan Eden would not be a Metzias, which is a very hard point to say. Another point is, it says, Hashem created from the earth basically all the creations. So basically, the fact that he used the world itself for creation shows that it's a tool that can actually create a Metzias. Unlike contrary to popular belief, to a lot of buchorim, VR is not actually a real thing. So obviously Hashem he actually used something that was mamashos to create a Metzias. And obviously Hashem is the greatest Ummah of all time, so he obviously used the best tools, and the fact that he created it from the earth is a very good raya that the world exists. Another point is Hashem's job description, the way Hashem refers to himself. So there are actually two things on Hashem's resume. He has two things, and one of them is I'm the creator of heaven and earth, and one of them is that I am the person that took the Eden out of Mitzrayim. So Hashem himself identifies himself as the person, as creating the world. So obviously, even though you might have people once in a while that put stupid things on their resumes to their bosses, but obviously Hashem, everything on his resume is 100% b'diuk. So if he says he created the heaven and earth, it obviously means he created the heaven and earth. So, pasuk in Yeshaya it says, "Anochi asisi aretz v'adam la'avrasi," and a pasuk in Yirmiyah says similar lashon, "Anochi asisi esa aretz v'esa adama, esa adam v'esa behema asher al pnei haaretz." And then an important point, b'toichi agadol u'vizrei hanatuya, with a lot of my. I invested a lot of keiches into this, so it's a pretty dumb point to say that Hashem invested so much keiches into something that doesn't actually exist.
10 seconds.
All right, so basically, why would Hashem invest something that? So basically, we have based off this, it's a very hard point to say that the world is not a Metzias, because there's no Torah mitzvahs, there's no morality at all, there's no schar v'einish, and basically that would be a very terrible point and lead to a lot of depression and maybe even suicide. And for Hashem's sake, for our sake, for the world's sake, the world must be a Metzias.
So, I assume that everybody already realizes that Lagabi, us creations, the world seems to be a Metzias, right? Everything looks like a Metzias to us. But the question of the debate was, does the world really exist? Meaning, is the world a real existence? Yeah, so first we have to understand, what does real mean? So now real obviously is referring to Lagabi Hashem, in regards to Hashem. Right? Because if it was Lagabi us, everything seems to be real to us. So obviously Lagabi Hashem is the world real. Is the real existence. So it says in the Mishnah, source 9, Hamayim HaMachazvin or Psulim. Eloi Hamayim HaMachazvin, Machazvin Nechel B'Shavua. The water that dries out once in 7 years is possible to use for mechatos. And the Mishnah calls these type of water fake water. Meaning, even for the 6 years that it does seem to exist, it's still considered fake because it's not everlasting. Because something is only to be considered real if it's everlasting. If it's not everlasting, and it's not considered a real existence. And the Rebbe explains, Namarim all over chassidus, that the same applies exactly to the world. And it says in source 20, 22, 25, and 28 that anything that could have a shinui, a change, like these waters, is considered a fake existence. Even at the time that it seems to exist, it's a fake existence. Like we know, Hashem is constantly creating the world. And if he stops, there will obviously be a difference. Hashem has to always make sure that the world shouldn't have a shinui. I mean, obviously the world could have a shinui. And like it says in source 11, it says in Gemara clearly that the world is going to exist for 6,000 years. In the 7,000th year, it's going to get destroyed. Meaning clearly the world is for sure going to have a shinui. Obviously the world is not everlasting, therefore not a real existence. Now it explains in source 24 that all this is how the way Hashem, how he relates to us. Meaning that the way Hashem relates to us is that the world exists, but it's not a real existence. But Gabi Atzmus Erin Saif, which is L'mayla Mea Elamais, the world doesn't exist at all. Not even a fake existence. Nothing that not exists at all. Like the Rebbe Shab explains that Gabi Atzmus Erin Saif, which is L'mayla Mea Elamais, there is no existence at all. It also says in source 31 that Gabi Atzmus Erin Saif, which is higher than Elamais, the world is not a Matthias, rather it's just an imagination. It's not an actual Matthias. But Gabi, how Hashem relates to us, it's a Matthias, but it's not a real Matthias. Now the obvious question that comes now is how can you say that the world doesn't exist? There's mitzvahs, there's Torah, there's mitzvahs in this world. If the world doesn't really exist, then what's the Torah mitzvahs? So the Rebbe explains, source 27, he explains clearly that the Rambam says that Hashem Elohim is emes, hu levada, he's emes, and there's no emes besides him. And the Torah says, ein od milvadai, kloimar, meaning that there's no matzoi emes milvadai, there's no real existence besides Hashem. Yeah, that there is a matzoi, there's an existence, but not a real existence. That's the Rambam. And Rashi says that he explains in the pasuk that the Yidden saw clearly. The Yidden saw by Matan Torah, they saw that Hashem is Yechidi. And the Rebbe explains that what does Yechidi mean? The level of Erin Saif, that Hashem is himself, and there's nothing else that exists at all besides him. So now the difference in Rashi and Rambam is that Rambam is a halacha sefer. Rambam is telling you the halacha. That the halacha, he's telling us we have to do mitzvahs in this world. So he's telling us the world exists, but it's not a real existence. And that's the world you're doing your Torah mitzvahs in. Rashi is not telling you what to do your halacha. He's just telling you the fact that Gabi Hashem, Gabi After and Safe, the world doesn't exist at all, and there's no existence at all. And to understand this a little bit more, it says in Maimer, source 20, that when Hashem creates the world, it's all Hashem's words. Hashem's Asius is creating the whole world. And we're not on the level, we can't see Hashem's Asius, we're not on such a high level. So for us, whatever Hashem says, to us it looks like a table, it looks like a chair, that's what it looks like to us, but it's not actually there. It says clearly in Maimer that if we were chas v'shalom blind, nothing would change. The world would stay the exact same, but that table wouldn't be there. Because it's only there because that's how we see it, but it's not actually there. The only thing that's there is the chayus of Hashem that's being mahaved. The actual table, that's just how we see Hashem's words. But that's not actually the existence. Like you know the story. When Alter Rebbe, the musician Magen Machahuba, right before he passed away, he was in the wagon, he told his son, I think it was, that I'm already on the level that I don't see the ceiling anymore. All I see is the Isis of Hashem that's creating the ceiling. Meaning that he was already on the level that nothing in the world changed, everything stayed the same. But he was on the level that he realized that he only saw the Isis of Hashem, even though the wall was never there in the first place. It's just since we're on the level, we can't see the power of Hashem creating it. All we see is just the table, whatever we see, whatever we think it is.
The first point I want to address is the first point that the other team's opening statement made, the first point that Heschel made, that the world can't exist. It's not a real amiti because in order for something to exist, it has to be everlasting. So that I'd like to say something it says in the beginning of Tanya. It says that a tzaddik always cleaves to be to Hashem. He always wants to be next to Hashem. And that's a feeling that never goes away. It's consistent. Whereas a Beinoni, well, there are two different levels of Beinoni, but the higher level, that's not relevant. Whereas a Beinoni, as the one that Tanya talks about the most, is, in general, he has a Yetzer Hara. He constantly has to fight it. He always has to work to think only about Hashem and do only what Hashem wants. It's just only during times of Kriya Shema and Shemana Esrei where he feels like he really wants to be close to Hashem. It says over there that compared to the tzaddik, the Beinonis feeling of closeness to Hashem, even at the time of Shemana Esrei, Kriyashma, is not considered a real amiti, because it's not everlasting, like Heschel said. But then Tanya goes on to say that even though compared to a tzaddik it's not a real amiti, it in itself is a real amiti. It's not on the same level, but it exists. So too, the world, it doesn't exist on the same level as Hashem, but it's an amiti. Hashem is the emes amiti mamash. He's the real existence. Nothing is creating him. He's creating himself. But this real amiti is what's creating the world. This real amiti is taking essence from himself. That is the source for the world. So the world is in itself an emes. Now, if you want to say that there are sources that say that the world, that there's nothing that exists besides for Hashem, essentially what they're saying is Eined Mevadeh, only Hashem. You can say the world is part of Hashem. The world comes from Hashem. Hashem is exactly what the world is. That's it for now.
Obviously, the other team didn't understand the question of the debate. Is the world a real mitzias? Because the whole time they were discussing mitzias, they weren't discussing real mitzias. So I would like to read here for them to 22. Guys can look inside. ואם כן, מאחר שיהיה איזה שינוי יסבטו, אם כן, גם עכשיו שיש בהם מתיוס, אינם מתיוס אמיתית. They are not a real mitzias. They're not a true mitzias. Okay, we have a bunch of other sources saying that. Another thing, I was looking through your source sheet, and I saw you guys wanted to quote Chelek Vav. I don't know why you didn't quote it, where it kind of says the world is a real mitzias. So obviously you guys didn't look in the ha'ara of that sicha, where it says clearly, read it for you. This is in your source. You guys have to little answering to do. So we see clearly that, obviously, and I'll explain to you a little more that source. 19 is quoted from the Samach Vav, where the Rebbe Shab explains. He goes in the whole thing about Heschel was explaining if the world is Mitzius, but not a Mitzius Amiti, and he says this is here. It's source 24. Here, although regarding to Atos, there's no mitzius whatsoever. Okay, the Gabel ain't a tzimtzum master klal. It's shining exact same way. Even after the tzimtzum, so and he explained Gemara. This is the way Atos are safe, which obviously that is the most real thing. So the most real thing, it doesn't exist. Obviously, really, it doesn't exist. And even if you want to say, oh, we're not talking Atzmos here, we're talking lower level, the way Hashem relates to us, we already said that it's a Metzius, but not a Metzius Amiti. As in the same Samach Vav, he continues to explain. That's like Gabel. But mitzad us, mitzad Hashem relates to us, it is a Metzius, but not a Metzius Amiti. So what do we see? The world is not a real Metzius. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's going to be a 5-minute recess for both teams to discuss, strategize, for the audience to conspire.
In response to Mendela, which said that the world's not a Metzius Amiti, so the world, everyone knows, I'm saying it's a known Indian that we actually learned just now in Postville that the whole Indian of a yesh, of how is there a Metzius of yeshes, why are we able to be a yesh? Because there's no Indian of yesh. What's the emes of yesh? Yesh is yesh amiti. So where do we have an Indian of yeshes in the world? It obviously comes from yesh amiti. So if it's coming from the Eibishter, yesh amiti, so I think the Eibishter is real. I think so. Also it says Yisrael Yiratzeh v'Kidshbrichu Kul Echad. So and it says the Kidshbrichu is Taka B'Yiratzeh Alma, means the world was created from Kidshbrichu, and Barnashi's Ifshtal B'Yiratzeh Mekayim Alma, that we're being Mekayim the world through learning Torah, meaning that the world is being Mekayim through Kidshbrichu, Yisrael and Yiratzeh, which are all the same thing. So it's all MS. Yeah, Eibush is MS. There's also another Indian that we say about Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is Yichud Ilah. And afterwards we say Baruch Hashem Kaved Malchus Leilam Va'ed, which is Yichud Tata. Why do we have Yichud Ilah, Yichud Tata? So the Rabbi Shab explains in Kunstei Chaim that in order to have a feeling towards the Eibush there, we can't. If we're Batal B'Mtzius, then there's no feelings towards the Eibush there, because there's no feelings. You have to have a V'hata Es Hashem Elokecha B'chol Vavcha B'chol Nafshecha. That's the after through having to be a Metzius, and that's also Dir B'Tachtenim. In order to be a Dir B'Tachtenim, what it says in Paraglam of Tanya, Sav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Dir B'Tachtenim. What's Tachtenim? There's no Tachtenim. How is there Dir B'Tachtenim? So you want to say that it says over there also that the Shinui Hashem, there's no Shinui for the Eibishter. The only Shinui is to the Makablim. So the Shinui is to the Makablim. So that, what does it mean? The world's fake to who? To us. The Eibishter is Metzius Amiti. The Eibishter wants a Dir B'Tachtenim. You say the Eibishter has a fake Ratzin. Also another in Melech B'lei Am. The Eibishter is not a Melech. If we're not a Am, then who's the Eibishter Melech on? I'm saying there's whatever. It's I don't have to say much. It's Davar Pashut.
I'm honestly unimpressed because yeah, I think so. We're speaking about Memorim. We're bringing Memorim, explaining Amiti. The current Memorim, verse 22, 24, where clearly that's not Amiti. Somebody argues, what do you mean it is Amiti? I'm not here to argue the Mimer. I can't answer the Mimer. I'll give a short answer that's given in Ara of Hadron. The Rabbi gave Tafshan Lamed Hey on the Rambam. Sahar 29, where he explains that there's really two levels. Let me get it. No, maybe. Yeah. The fact that the world's a Messiah is not an imagination, and even there it's not a miti, as Rabbi Elo explains. That's only the Gabi that I have the Yesh. That's only regarding the way that Hashem released to us, how He's creating us. But the Gabi Asmas Orient Saif, so the highest, the real. Over there, where there's no symptom or anything, Ein Shum Messias Klal. Clear the member. And, yeah. Now, Maishi was saying, I'm going 2 things back. Maishi was saying about MS that actually happened to Alf himself. Am I allowed to go 2 things back? Yeah? Yeah. Alf himself says that this is actually true. I know what he's bringing Amiti. Alf himself that the world actually happened. That this is actually true. That Hashem's not lying. Hashem's not lying. He created the world, not as a Messias Amiti. He created it. You're saying that Hashem created something to the source. If Hashem is true, it must be that we're true. You have a carpenter create something. Everything creates needs to be perfect. Hashem saying that Hashem can't create something that's not perfect is limiting Hashem. Hashem created us in a way that to us will seem like we're Messias, and even there, not as Messias Amiti. And the Gabi Hashem. So it says clearly in the footnote that over there, the Gabi Hashem, we're not a Messias. So basically, Brother Kim is talking about how we see it. That's what the whole entire Torah is. And I have an extra 16 seconds. I have nothing to say.
Okay, so I don't know if the judges can actually judge today because they said today that the world actually exists. Now let me explain. All Jews that daven with a minyan probably said Mein Daraban today. I put a sitter on there. You could just open up the bookmark and you can read what it says. Okay, what it says Maidim Anachnu Lach. We acknowledge and we are thankful to you that you Hashem are God and God of our fathers. You are the God who rules over all flesh, our creator and the creator of everything that exists. Which basically says, Hashem just said, hey, I exist. Acknowledge me for that. Okay, and then since you all said that today, you basically just said, I'm grateful for you, Hashem, for creating the world and all existence. Okay, on a different point now. When 2 people have a child, their child is connected to them and a part of them. And so you could basically say that when Hashem created the world, He's the Father, the Creator. It basically means that Hashem's connected to the world and a part of it. So if you say that the world doesn't exist, you're basically just saying that Hashem doesn't exist because He is a part of the world and the world is a part of Him. So you're then a kafir, no offense. And since they gave me so much time, I think I might just stop now. So
officially, I'm not allowed to respond, and I think it's in their favor. just a few weeks ago, left our banging with Rabbi Karp. He said something, not realizing the damage it would cause. He said, the world is like a movie, and we need to snap out of it. Right away, Amitai called out, he screamed out, how can you say that? If you're going to say that, then that the world's like a movie and doesn't exist, then how can you say that we make a dir b'tachtenim in a fake world? Right away, a whole debate, conversation started, which led to this debate. Most people held that really it exists. The word, as proven before, that comes from simple Amaratishkeit. Yeah. Nigleh, just in case you didn't know, he's younger than me. It's a good time to say that. He's younger. I'm older. Yeah, and a few others stubbornly stayed with their opinion that the world does not really exist. Interestingly, me and my Shuvin were there, and we both started making fun of the stupid and cringy conversation. And now, 2 weeks later, after many hours of learning Mamur and Slichus, that sounds like doing their B'shlichus. Thank you, Vinny, for that rhyme. Here we are. And now, to conclude, we say 3 levels our team comes up with. The way we see things as physical materials, that means I'm a ratzim. Then, second level, the way Hashem connects to the elements, and as I said in Mamur, there was a Matthias, but not a real Matthias. Then, the third level, the way Atzmos aren't safe. Regards to that, ain't shum Matthias klal, said numerous times. And now to answer Amitai's question, then by the Farbinyan, how can you say that they're in the fake world? The answer is written. I don't know if they answered it for me, but I'll just say it again. Hara 16. V'hine in Perkam Vav and Tanya. V'hine lo yishayach l'fanav yitzbarach v'nes maila umata. I'm going to say that clear. There's no maila or mata. That means tachtenim dilah yitzbarach but tachtenim. There's no tachtenim regarding Hashem. So how can you say that? It says Mamur, the Barashab. It's Shakir Gomer to say there's a maila mata. And then it goes on explaining. Ra, Shashinoi, who el Makablim. The Shinoi is only the Makablim. I'm nothing to argue. It's clearly in Tanya, you can look there. And that's exactly what Rabbi Karp was saying. The world's like a movie. And just like after a movie, the actors, if they continue on with the movie, they're crazy. So through us, we're like living in the movie, and we need to snap out of it. Right after when we go davening and learning, that's our avodah. We need to snap out of the gashmius and daven and learn, and through that we see what's real and connect to Hashem, which is real. I want to take the opportunity to thank the judges, Amitai, and everyone for participating. And I hope you find truth in our words. Now.
Okay, just a quick story while the judges are calculating. I'm sure that Matzah Shabbos after a story of a tzaddik. So I'm sure the judges are not listening. Either way, the arguments on both sides were so powerful, especially the arguments from Rabbi Karp Ringen. I'm just kidding, just because best source obviously, but that was a joke. Anyways, really both sides obviously tremendous arguments. I'm sure whatever I say is not going to sway anything. But there was one time, just in case anyone's getting any bad ideas from the debate, so one time there was a chassid, I might get some details wrong over here, but there was a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek. It doesn't sound like the biggest chassid. But he did something wrong to someone, maybe he stole something, and he was told you have to pay back. So he said, listen, I don't want to pay back, because who am I? I'm nothing. The thing I stole is nothing. The person I stole from is nothing. It's all nothing. It's all Hashem. Why should I pay back? So they didn't know what to do with this guy. So they brought him to the Tzemach Tzedek, and I might be getting the whole story wrong, but something like this. And the Tzemach Tzedek said, listen, garnished. If you don't give back the garnished, we're going to take a big garnished and we're going to hit you with the garnished until garnished comes out of you. Yeah? Okay, it's a famous story. Okay, I'm sure the judges aren't listening. No one's going to throw anything at me, right? Okay. There's a famous story that Yossi Jacobson, as a child, was by the Rebbe's Farbinyan. And he was a child. So what does a child do with the Rebbe's Farbinyan? He decided to tie people's tzitzis together, and when they get up, it's going to be a whole mess, and he's going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be great. He's in the middle of tying the tzitzis together, and suddenly he notices that the entire 770 is quiet, and they're all looking at him. And he's thinking, what did I do wrong? Where did I disappear to? Did everyone caught me? What happened? So then he hopped that the Rebbe had just said. The Rebbe was talking about how a child is so pure, his neshama is so connected to Hashem's essence, that for him, it almost seems like, I'll say both sides, it seems like he sees that the world's not a Metzias B'chal. He said, except, so the Rebbe said, this child over here in front of me, how does he know the world exists? In other words, the only way, the Rebbe said, and the Rebbe was standing there quietly, waiting for Yossi Jacobson to answer. He's looking around, he's like, what do I do now? And then the Rebbe answered for him. The Rebbe said, so he says he knows the world exists because Bereshit Bara Elokim says Shemai V'Sar. So anyways, then the point is that for sure we have to know that whatever it says in Torah is emes, that's the only reality. And one thing that it says in Torah is that every bucher has to come to chassidus tomorrow exactly on time and learn it.
So first of all, I'm going to start off with a story. There was once a Baldin, somebody that had a problem with somebody else, he had an issue, and he came to the Rav to discuss, to say, this is a story that happened, somebody else cheated me, whatever it is. And the guy was saying why he's right, with Mekairis, with everything. He finished the discussion. The Rav was only hearing the first Baldin, so he said, it seems to me you're taka right. So the guy goes, and then the other Baldin comes to the Rav and says his side of the story. Why, really, he's the one who's right, and the other one cheated him, and he brings Mekairis to his side, and he listens to his side, and he said, you're taka right. So the Rebbetzin and the Rebbe's wife comes in running. How could you say both? What's going on over here? He's right and he's right. He thinks for a second, you're also right. So this is just a story, but I want to say that really what we're judging over here is not the matter. If the olam is a metzias or if it's not a metzias, this is taka a very good debate and a good kasha to have. And I'm not going to be the one to judge deciding on that. What we are judging on is the presentation, and as the paper over here is the written sources, the logical arguments, and how the both teams presented themselves. And Hagufa, in every team itself, we're just giving the final mark of both teams. But in every team, you have the different people, and one did better, one did, everyone's accordingly. So this is just the final psak. You don't see exactly who yeah and who not. Everybody did a very, very good job. I was very impressed to hear, especially with the ritzifus, how the Mekairis are flying. Some of you knacked their head. So it was very good. And who's the winning team? Should we all scream together? Should we say the number of the points or just the winning team?
Say points.
The points were very, very close. We have the team, I don't know what to call it. Team 1 over here is on my left. That's Moshe Rubin's team. They scored 49.5. And we have team 1 on the right. And they scored 54.
Let's go!